Hi, welcome. In this video today, I'm going to be talking about what we do when we struggle with technique and what we can do to stop struggling. I'm going to talk about the real reason why we struggle with technique when we're making music and how we get in our own ways. So by the end of this video, hopefully you'll have a little bit of a better idea of what you might be doing when you're struggling and making things really hard for yourself, and how you can do a little less of that and maybe have a little more fun when you're practicing. So if we haven't met yet, and this is the first video you've seen on this broadcast, my name is Jennifer Roig-Francolí. I'm the mind-body violinist. And I'm also the host of the Mind Body Practice Tribe, which is my free group on Facebook. And I welcome you, please, to join if you are new and you're interested in learning about a mind-body approach to music making that is stress-free and fun. Basically, I help musicians feel better psychologically and physically so that they can play better and enjoy music making the way we're supposed to be when we're making music. It's supposed to be fun, right? So that's my job. Come on over to the tribe if you want to see what we're up to. So let's get down to the topic of the day, which is, are you actually struggling and what's going on? All right, so before I dive in, I just do want to say hello to some of my friends who've shown up. It's always so great to have you here. Hi, Barb and Kay and Lindo and Francisco. Welcome. I'm really glad that you made the time to be here. I really appreciate your presence and hope that I have something, very helpful to offer you. So thanks again for being here. And if you're watching the replay, you are just as important, so please say hi, say hello, and I do look at all the comments later, so I will be able to see if you have any questions or comments, and I always love to know who's there, so just give me a shout out and say hi. So my first question to everybody here is, are you struggling with technique? And that doesn't mean, are you always struggling with technique, because that would be really sad and you'd probably quit. But do you struggle? Do you know what I'm talking about? Do you know what it's like to be struggling with technique? So just put a yes or a no in the comments if you put a yes if you struggle, obviously a no if you have technique all covered and down and you never struggle with it, then you probably won't be watching this video. So, or maybe you're a teacher and you're just looking for some extra tools to help your students with, which is great too. So, all right, I'm seeing some people are, oh, hi, Desiree, wanted to say hi. Welcome for coming here. And Francisco says yes. So Francisco is brave and honest and says, yes, I struggle with technique sometimes. And Kay also, yes. And Nan, hey, Nan, welcome. So it's common, as we practice so much, we work so hard on wanting to become really better musicians, and technique is a big aspect of what we do. I'm a violinist, obviously, but it doesn't matter whether you're a string player or a wind player or a singer or a conductor, you still need to work on technique, right? And so most teachers are out there teaching you how to do specific techniques. I do that, but what I do, I'm much more interested in how the mind and the body work together to produce what we want through the primary instrument of ourselves, which is through our body, through our hands, through our arms. How do we need to think in order to cause the body to do what we want to get the result through our instruments? That's what I'm most interested in. And then it gets really exciting because you realize that it's all up here, okay? So you might be wondering, how do they make it look so easy? When you go to a concert and you see those great artists, how do they make that technique look so easy? I mean, their fingers are just flying all over the fingerboard, right? It's like, how do they do it? They look like it's effortless, right? And little kids, you watch these days, there's so many YouTube videos. You can just go on YouTube and you can find a dozen little prodigies who are they're maybe 6 or 7. And you know what I'm talking about? Give me a thumbs up if you know what I'm talking about. You go on YouTube and you're like, oh my God, you're watching these little kids and they're just doing anything. Well, how do they do it? How do they make it look so easy? That's what I want to talk about today. They know something that we don't. if we're struggling with technique. They know something about how to make the whole mind-body system work to make that technique happen, okay? So another question for you is, what happens? Well, actually, first of all, wouldn't it be so nice if you could do that? Wouldn't it feel great if you could just look at a piece of music and you could see all those black notes flying by, and it wouldn't cause you stress or panic, and you wouldn't start thinking, oh, I can never do that. And you could just pick up your instrument and you could do it. Wouldn't that be great? Without all the struggle. I think that would be great. Tell me if you think that would be great. Thumbs up. Yeah. Okay. So how do you feel when you're practicing and you're working on, let's just take something really basic. Like you're working on a scale, okay? You're wanting to play. I didn't bring my bow because I don't even have enough room right here. I wasn't actually going to play, but what happens if you're playing a scale and you want to be able to play it really fast? So you're going up like this, but you see, if I try really hard to get all those notes perfectly in tune, I'm going to be focusing really hard and trying really hard to get it right. And do you see how my body gets kind of tight and compressed when I try really hard to get it right, even if it's just a scale? So how do you feel when you do that, when you try really hard and you're struggling with technique? Maybe you have some frustration or impatience, or you're going, God, why does it take me so long to get this? I am really familiar with that feeling. I remember especially when I was first, when I was a teenager and I was still working on basic techniques, trying to get those octaves in tune, trying to get those thirds in tune, and sometimes I would just want to give up because it felt like I was banging my head against the wall. Like every day I would be practicing the same thing over and over again. And I remember being a kid and my mom would tell me, okay, you have to do that section 10 times in a row correctly. And if you get to the 9th time and you mess up, got to start over again. That's a recipe for frustration. And how do you feel in your body when you feel frustrated? Let's see if anybody's got any comments here on how, yeah, Barb feels frustrated. Yeah. So when you're feeling frustrated, what do you feel in your body? Can you remember a time right now, or maybe you have a situation in your life right now where you get frustrated? Can you imagine that? Just take a moment. And where do you feel the frustration in your body? I'm going to give you a moment to just type in if you're at a place where it's easy to type in. Barb says she feels tense. Yeah, I feel tense when I get frustrated. I also notice when I personally get frustrated, not everybody has this, but I'm just thinking through it with you right now, my arms get kind of tight. Maybe because I want to punch somebody. So, yeah, and Kay says tightness too, right? So, if you are frustrated, there's a little bit of anger and impatience, and you want something that you're not getting, and you want it now, right? So that's where we get to the nitty-gritty of it. So the Alexander technique has several fundamental universal principles. Nothing that Alexander himself invented, but he discovered a certain, like maybe 7 universal principles about how the mind and body work. And he discovered that there is something that we tend to do as a habit that gets in our way, no matter what the activity is. And he called that end gaming. Okay, not gaming like a ball game, but gaining, like you want to gain something, you want to get something. So end gaining, for me, that's the big, real, fundamental reason why we struggle with anything, technique or whatever it is. But we're talking specifically about instrumental or vocal or conducting technique, musical technique today. And the fundamental reason that we struggle, that we experience working on technique as a struggle, the reason we get frustrated is because we're end gaining, okay? So I want to give you a quick definition of end gaining, and then we'll move on from there. But end gaining is basically when you are focusing on the goal. It's a goal-oriented way of thinking versus the process. Okay, so let's take that scale example again. So let's say you want to be able to play a 3-octave scale with the metronome, perfectly in time, perfectly in tune, and you want to be able to do it at a pulse of a quarter note at, let's say, 80. Okay, so let's say you've done it the first time and you get halfway through and you hit a note and it's like, oh, that note is off. Okay, so ideally you would stop. Most people just barrel on through it and they say, oh shoot, I missed that note, and they keep going, which is okay in some circumstances. But if you actually really want to be improving and kind of perfecting, I don't believe in perfection in a certain sense, but like in this sense of trying to get all the notes right, I don't. That's just, it's that's a topic for another live show. But anyway, if you don't stop and fix that, basically you're training your brain how to do it wrong. So ideally you would kind of go back and look at that note and see, well, okay, how come it was wrong? How come it was flat? Oh, it was flat. Now, why was it flat? Oh, I guess I need to kind of have my fingers spaced a little further apart or whatever. So you go back a moment and you stop and you think about it, right? And then, so you get curious in the moment, in what you're doing in the moment. At that moment, you've kind of forgotten about your goal of playing the whole scale because you are focused in the moment and you're getting curious and interested in actually what's happening. You're not glossing over something and kind of hoping that next time you'll hit that note right. You're just saying, okay, well, that's interesting. That note was out of tune. I wonder what I could do differently next time so that that note has a better chance of being in tune. So basically what you got to do is keep your eye on the ball. Okay, this is another huge topic, but when you're end gaining, it's like you're in baseball and you want to hit the ball and all you care about is hitting the ball there so that you can get a home run. Okay, you're so focused on hitting the ball over there that you're actually not in the moment with your eye on the ball as it comes towards you, as it hits the bat, as it goes away. Well, actually, you don't have to look at it anymore as it goes away from you. You need to see the ball every second as it comes towards you, which is very challenging and requires a lot of practice. But there are great baseball players who say that when they're in what you call the zone, which is kind of what we're aiming for as musicians too, you want to know how to get in the zone. That's what Alexander technique teaches you. But there are these great ball players who actually say that when the pitcher throws the ball is coming towards them and they can see the ball. It's almost like slow motion for them. They can see how the ball spins. They can see the seams of the ball as they move, as it's coming towards them. They don't lose sight of the ball the whole way. Their eyes are tracking the ball. They're so conscious of where the ball is that they know exactly. It's like there's a system inside of themselves that coordinates everything along with the stimulus, what they're seeing, and then they can have a coordinated response in the moment that that ball hits the bat. They can hit it and then the ball goes exactly where they want it to go because they had that intention planted in the brain to begin with, but they were not focusing at all on the goal. They're focusing on the ball. Okay, so this is what we need to learn to do as musicians, and it is a skill that requires a tremendous amount of time practicing, basically. But it's not the kind of practicing that you may be used to. You may be used to all kinds of practicing that well, for instance, one type of practicing that doesn't work is mindless repetition of things. It just really doesn't work unless you are really focused on your primary instrument. And what I mean by that is you can be taking care of how your mind and body work together with Alexander Technique skills that the types of things that I teach. If you want to know more specifics, you can join my practice tribe where I teach an Alexander Technique etude, like a beginner etude, twice a week. It's called The Cycle. So come on over to the tribe if you're not a member yet, and you can learn this etude for free, and you can get me teaching it to you twice a week live for free. Good reason to join. But that's just like the tip of the iceberg. It's just the very first way that you can start learning Alexander Technique by yourself, for yourself, to make a difference. So I guess the main point here that I want to drive home is that we are more interested in the results that we get than in the process, than in the steps that we need to take to achieve our results. So you can apply this concept to anything in life, obviously. And this is why I'm so interested in this approach to music making, because it doesn't separate out my musical practice time from the rest of my life. It doesn't compartmentalize different areas of my life. I'm able to integrate the different aspects of life that interest me and that are a part of me. So when I pay attention to how I think and how I move and how I feel in my body, the emotions I'm having, and how all of that works together when I apply it to playing the violin, or to eating, or to brushing my teeth, or to doing a video like this for you. It's all the same process. So I can be practicing this kind of coordination and use of myself, as Alexander put it, all the time if I want. Not all the time, because that's kind of inhuman, it's impossible. But I can be practicing this use of myself every single moment that I want to and that I remember during the day. And every time my mind-body coordination improves, and any moment that my awareness comes to this use of myself, my violin playing automatically gets better. And I guarantee this, I promise this to you, it is 100% foolproof and consistent, and it just works. It just works because that's how we are designed to work. So Alexander just discovered some basic universal principles about how human beings work, and he developed some techniques to help us access our natural design, so that we can use ourselves as, and function the way we're designed to, so that we can learn how to do whatever we want to do with more ease, so that I'm not struggling to get that scale. I'm watching and observing and wondering about the process from this finger to this finger to this finger to this finger. And at the same time, there's an inner coordinator inside of me that's coordinating what's going on with my right arm at the same time. And if I'm doing this in front of a teacher or a student or an audience, I'm able to include all those people and my feelings and my thoughts and their reactions and their responses. It all becomes like one thing that something deep inside of me is able to keep in balance and in my awareness. So this may seem kind of abstract to you, but that's why I like to make it really, really, really practical and drill it down to one thing. Okay, this one thing is paying attention to what's going on now. It's developing the skill, and it is a skill that requires practice. It's developing the skill of being in the present moment. So the things that tend to get in the way are the things that make us struggle with our technique are usually, they fall under the category of desire. Like, that's the end gaining, like I really want to get it. But if you really want to get it, you get tight and your muscles get tight and it gets harder to actually accomplish what you want. Everything's easier when your muscles have minimal tension and you're employing minimal effort so that your inner coordinator, your natural design can take over, do it for you. You just get to watch. Your job is to have a clear intention. Okay, I want to play that note and tune next time. That's an example of a clear intention. But then you have to not care about it so much. You put in the request to your brain, then you trust, and you watch what's going on in the present moment. Forget about the future. Don't worry about that hard passage coming up. Don't worry about that shift that hasn't happened yet. And for goodness sake, don't worry about the note that you already screwed up. If your intention is to play through the whole scale, to see what happens through the whole scale, don't stop and go back. By all means, don't stop if you screwed up. If your intention is to see if you can play the whole thing, there's a time and a place for stopping and going back, and there's a time and a place for not stopping and allowing the flow to carry you forward. But it's all about what you intend before you start, and trusting your system to do it. And then, of course, having the skills, developing these skills through daily, consistent practice of the techniques that allow you to stay in the present and pay attention without end gaining. So Alexander technique skills teach you how to stay in the process. So I hope this is interesting to you. I'm going to stop soon with this broadcast, but before I stop, I just want to take a moment to check in with everybody who's watching. And if you are watching the replay, please just go ahead and put your comments in there. And I forgot to suggest that you share this with your colleagues and your students and your teachers and your friends, and especially in musical Facebook groups where there are a lot of musicians who could benefit. I would be so grateful if you post this video over there if you find it useful. That would be really great. Anne says, here, thanks for your question. Yeah, I really want to open this time right now to questions, see if there's anything that comes up. So Anne says, hi Anne, by the way, I'm glad you're here. Anne asks, what if I cannot, oops, I just lost it. What if I cannot do something even though my process is good? Okay. Well, of course, there are some absolute limitations. We're human beings in this body, in this world, and sometimes there are physical, real limitations. For instance, if you have, here's a rather radical example, but if you have 3 fingers, you can't play a scale with the fingerings that your teacher may tell you if they haven't noticed you have 3 fingers, which is very unlikely. But you get my point. You can have real physical limitations that there's nothing you can do about. Okay, that's one thing. Also, if there's injury, if there's disease that is interfering with your well-being on a physical or mental level, there are diseases and injuries that are going to prevent you from being able to do something. Okay, so let's put that aside. I just wanted to get that out of there, but I don't think that's what Anne is asking exactly. And that's kind of obvious, but had to say it anyway. So sure, what if you want to be able to play a G major scale at a certain metronome marking and you just can't do it? Okay, maybe that's an example. Or, Anne, if you want to give me a specific example, go ahead, but I'll just go with that one for right now. So let's say you want to play a G major scale and you want to get it in tune and you want to play it at a certain fast speed at the metronome marking. And you've been working on it every day for a week and you still can't get it up to tempo. Okay, that's when it gets even more important to practice the skills that hopefully you've been learning with, through Alexander technique. I always say Alexander technique because I'm a certified Alexander teacher, obviously. And, but I've looked, for decades, I've been interested in all kinds of methods for body work and mental work and spiritual work, meditation, all kinds of things. I've experimented with a lot, and I've also stuck with things for a long period of time. So I feel like I have a perspective that many people don't have. And so That's when the going gets tough and you feel like you've been putting in the work, you've been doing what it takes, you've been making the effort, and it's still not working. That's when it gets even more important to stick to principle. And that's what Alexander would say. He'd say, got to just stick to principle. And in this case, in this particular video, in this context, I'm talking about the principle of non-end gaining, okay? And also, there's one other thing. Well, just let me not get sidetracked, but to not end gain, okay? So you stick to the process with trust and faith that one day, when if you're practicing with a foundation of the process in the way I've described, where you're paying attention to your mind-body coordination. In specific, you're paying attention to ease. And I didn't go into that in detail in this live video, but please, look at my other videos if you want to know more about ease, learn the cycle, come to my group where we do the cycle. But there's a way to access mind-body ease and better coordination instantly that I teach for free. If you are practicing your process from that starting point of paying attention to ease, and you're doing that consistently, and you just don't know what else to do, it's likely that your brain is working on it behind the scenes, and you will get it. You just aren't getting it as fast as you want. You're not getting it as soon as you want. And that's why the principle of end gaining is absolutely essential. And you just need to stick with that principle and notice your reactions. Okay, say you play that G major scale, you've got the metronome on, you're paying attention to ease and it's still not working. Okay, notice your reaction to that. Do you get frustrated? Do you get impatient? Do you feel like you're just not good enough? Do you want to quit? Do you want to just give up? You want to go eat chocolate? That's what I do. So you've got to just keep paying attention to your reactions. And it's like every time I like to call them the doubt monsters. Anytime a doubt monster creeps in, you say hello, and then you come back to noticing ease over and over and over again. It's like a spiritual practice. It's like a meditative practice. But I really, really, really believe so strongly that sticking to this process will get you to your goal. Of course, if you have a really, really, really challenging goal, I mean, you have to be realistic. For instance, here's my goal. Which I might change my mind. Actually, I'm going to make it hypothetical. I'm going to go back to my first impulse, which was a hypothetical goal. Okay, there's a very technically challenging violin piece called The Last Rose of Summer by Ernst. Give me a thumbs up if you've ever heard of that. It's really hard technically, and I can't play that right now. But I believe that I can, that I have the ability and I have the potential to be able to play that flawlessly. I know that I have the skills to train myself to do that. If I have the motivation, if I'm strongly, strongly motivated to achieve that goal, if I really wanted it, then I would do what it takes. And it would probably take a good amount of daily practice, consistent practice in the context of everything that I know regarding the Alexander technique and everything else, all of my decades of professional experience with the violin. I'd have to bring everything that I know to that practice. And I would get frustrated, but I'd have to just not pay attention to the frustration and keep redirecting my attention to what's important, which is my well-being, paying attention to ease, and doing what makes my muscles release and my mind quicken so that I'm alert, that I can respond, and I can keep my eye on the ball as often as possible. That's what we're really training ourselves to do, to stay present to what's happening in the moment, just to stick with it and not pay any attention to the doubt monsters and things that get in the way. So yeah, it's hard. It's hard. But the good news is that it's the easiest thing in the world to do right now. I promise. Okay, so Anne, that was kind of a long answer to your question, but hopefully it helped. I'd love to get your feedback on what you thought of that. I'm seeing some other comments here. Linda says, yes, you do. I missed when you said that. I'll have to go back and watch. I don't know what it is that I do. Oh, I think you probably said I have the potential. Thank you. I really believe I do. It's just that I don't care enough about playing the Aaron's Last Rose of Summer to do the work. Here's another question from Vivian. Hello, Vivian. Welcome. Vivian says, how do you keep your eye on the ball when you get stage fright? Oh, that's a great question. So this is another huge topic, but just to put it in this context, Alexander himself said, quote, this is one of my favorite quotes. He said, quote, mine is the method, or a method rather, mine is a method for the control of human reaction. Okay, end quote. So everything is a stimulus. And some of the most powerful stimuli are our own thoughts, our own reactions to feelings that we're having in our body, maybe the adrenaline that's rushing through your system. I get little pumps of adrenaline in my solar plexus, like right around here when I'm nervous. I get, and then there's like a little shot of chemical soup inside of my bloodstream that makes me have a startle response. So that's one possible reaction with stage fright. So that's a stimulus. Seeing the stage door and knowing you have to go through it, that's a stimulus. Getting on stage and seeing those bright lights, those are all stimuli. But ultimately, it comes down to how we react to the stimuli. So Alexander technique is a method that helps us pay attention to what's going on in the moment. When I have a reaction, what's actually going on in my body? What am I thinking when I have that reaction? So it helps us pay attention. That's kind of keeping our eye on the ball, is when you keep asking yourself this question, what am I noticing about myself right now? That's like a magic question. What am I noticing about myself right now? Okay, and then to accept anything that you're noticing and keep asking the question. Okay, I would say that's like the that's a very basic first step if you're wanting to learn the Alexander technique, but it's very, very powerful. So I challenge you to try that, and it's hard to do in the moment when you have stage fright, which is why you have to practice it before you get nervous. This is why this etude that I told you about, this etude by Mio Morales, he's an Alexander teacher in Oregon. This Alexander etude that he created is called The Cycle. You can go to YouTube and look up my name, Jennifer Roig-Francolí, The Cycle, and you can learn how to do it in 10 minutes. Or you can just join my Mind Body Practice Tribe and do it with me live twice a week. It takes 2 minutes. If you do it twice a day, I promise your stage fright will start to ease. It'll get easier. And there are just so many other ways that I teach all the time to my students on how to deal with stage fright. So it's a great question, and maybe I'll address it more in another video. Anne says, in real life, there are deadlines like concert dates. Ultimately, I need to be fine with whatever state I'm in. Right. Yes, that's right. So it's important to have goals. It's really important. It's really essential to have goals. But we need to let go of being able to achieve them right now. We need to let go of our perfectionism. So absolutely, staying in the moment and having trust and faith that everything works itself out for us in its own good time. And we help it along, and we speed up the process when we stop struggling, when we start paying attention and caring more about what's going on in the moment than on whether we're going to be able to do whatever our goal is in the future. Okay, so you're welcome, Vivian. Great. Yeah, let me know how it goes. Vivian says she's going to try it, I think. She says, will do. So yeah, let me know. I'm always curious to get feedback on, you know, what people are experiencing when they try out my stuff. Barb says, you should do a series of videos with this piece talking us through the process. Yeah, I could. Oh, you mean like the last rose of summer? Yeah, right. I could, but actually, you know what? As I said, I don't care enough about that piece to actually go through that process. But I did a whole series. I don't know if you were in my group yet at that time, but it was about 1.5 years ago where I challenged myself to learn, and I had a date. I had a concert date scheduled. I made a commitment for it. So I had to learn this piece. It was called Amo a Paganini by Rossini, and kind of a technically challenging piece, which I'd never even heard before. Nobody's ever heard of this piece. But I decided I was going to learn it, and I had about 1.5 months, and so I actually did all of my practicing on video and posted all of it to YouTube. It's all, actually, all of those videos are, so there's like a whole record, a complete record of the whole process I went through, and those videos of my practice sessions that I did turned into kind of teaching videos. So I feel like it's a treasure there that I created. And if you're really interested in that, let me know, because I turned it into a product, and you can actually buy the whole series from one of my, you know, it's there. It's not easy to find. So if you want to know about it, let me know if you're interested in that. But you can watch sample videos from that on YouTube for free. So yeah, it's a great idea, and people really enjoyed watching my process and, you know, me teaching myself through that technically challenging piece. So I hope you can find it and enjoy that. Barb says, this is the best video ever. Oh, that's sweet. Thank you. Okay, I think that's about it. Linda says, embrace the process. Yes, I'm actually going to put that up there because that's such a beautiful thought, although it just put it right in front of my face. Hey, I have no control over where those quotes go. Let me see if there's anything else before I leave. I think, well, this was a really good question. I'm going to put that up there too. And okay, I think that's about it, and I'm going to say goodbye. Please join my tribe. I'm going to take that. Oh, how do I take that comment off? Sorry, I've got to learn the system better. You're welcome, Kay, and everyone. Thank you for being here. Thank you for watching the replay. Please tag your friends, share this video. The more comments that people put on my videos, the more Facebook likes them and shares them. And if you feel like giving me just like a whole shower of emojis right now, that also boosts my ratings. So the more comments and emojis that fly by, the more Facebook likes it. No, really, seriously, thank you so much for being here. And I will see you next Monday at 9 a.m. if you're interested in learning more. And also, there's so much free stuff that I offer. I have a free, oh, that was the last thing I wanted to say. Come to my group and you can get my free checklist and guide on the 7 keys to make your music sing, which gives kind of an overview of my whole approach to music making and a lot of tips and suggestions. So I hope you enjoy that, get that, use it, and let me know how it goes. Okay? Thank you so much for being here, and I wish you happy practicing.